Ladies and gentlemen, buckle up because what just happened in New York isn't politics as usual. In fact, it is a full-blown meltdown, a panic spiral, and a national embarrassment all wrapped into one. And it all started with one moment, guys. One calm, controlled sentence from President Donald J. Trump. A sentence so devastating, so surgical that it exposed Zoran Mandami's entire communist-style agenda, and it sent shockwaves through every single level of New York's political machine. You're about to see why the city is in full revolt right now, why Gen Z, yes, even Gen Z is suddenly backing away from Mandami, and why Congress is now pushing something that's called the Mandami Act. This is a bill so drastic, it could cut off federal funding to New York City overnight if Mandami doesn't answer for his out-of-control socialist schemes. And here's the part that Mandami never expected. He thought that this was just going to be another feel-good moment, another rally clip, another chance to throw out buzzwords and big promises with no budgets, no timelines, and absolutely no understanding of how the city or even the federal government actually works. But instead, he stepped into a national spotlight and got obliterated by a president who's been dealing with budgets, agencies, and federal coordination for decades. Trump didn't shout, he didn't insult, he didn't even raise his voice. He just simply explained calmly how the system works. And in that moment, guys, that one calm explanation, Mandami surrendered. He folded. He froze. And every weakness he'd been hiding behind social media charisma, it just came spilling into the open. And now city agencies are whispering, state officials are panicking, donors are pulling back, journalists, they're shifting their tones. And Congress, yes, Congress is preparing to block New York City's federal funding money because one man proved that he isn't ready for even a single minute of national level scrutiny. Now, this isn't a local story anymore, folks. This isn't a small mistake. This is the moment that New York's political future flipped upside down, and the moment that Zoran Mandami learned the real governance, real leadership, and real national pressure aren't TikTok clips and rally chants. They're serious, they're unforgiving, and they're exposing everything. So roll with me, guys, because what you're about to hear, this is bigger than a gaffe, this is bigger than a headline, and this is bigger than anything Mandami or his team saw coming. This is the moment the race turned. Hit the like button and subscribe. Now, the craziest part of this whole story is that Mandami never expected any of this. I mean, he walked into what should have been a routine New York City policy pitch, another moment to toss out some flashy ideas with no price tag, no roadmap, and no grasp of what they actually require. But this time, the conversation didn't stay local. No. His comments traveled upward fast, straight to Washington, straight to President Trump, and straight into a national arena that he was absolutely not prepared for. And that is when Victor Davis Hanson's warning became real. Excitement collapses when it collides with experience. And then came the moment that really flipped everything. So President Trump responded, but not with fire, not with volume, not with bombastic energy that everyone expects from him. No. President Trump, he did the one thing that Mandami feared the most. He stayed calm, surgical, technical. He broke down the policy like someone who's actually run something before. And instantly, the contrast was brutal. I mean, one man understood the system inside out, but the other suddenly exposed, fumbling, unsure, visibly overwhelmed. Trump didn't have to attack Mandami. He just simply showed the difference between competence and cosplay. And look, before we even get to the next part of this breakdown, I do want to take a second to pause right here for something very important, because what we're talking about with Mandami, this pressure, this sudden exposure, this anxiety building under the surface, a lot of you feel the same kind of pressure every time you think about your Medicare plan. Stress doesn't always look heavy, but you feel it, especially when it's tied to your healthcare, your prescriptions, and your future. This is exactly why I partner with Chapter, because they lift that weight off your shoulders by reviewing your Medicare plan for free. No pressure, no sales pitch, just real experts making sure that you're not missing benefits or overpaying for coverage that you shouldn't be stuck with. Now, one of our viewers, she told me, it felt like a load came off my chest after that call, and that's what I want for you. So let me ask, do you want that weight gone? Now, most people already feel lighter after calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there. It's 909-563-8279 or visiting askchapter.org/Ron. And just a quick heads up, some of you guys told me that it was tough to get through to Chapter, and I spoke to them, and they said the best thing to do is to call early in the morning or on the weekends. And just listen to what one of our viewers, or actually a couple of our viewers, told me. So Brenda Mathis, she said, Chapter saved me $714 a year. Bob said, I called Chapter and they helped me out. Excellent. Thanks, Ron. All right, so let's get back to it. Now, here's where the label really stuck, because once people took a closer look at Mandami's proposals, free transit, citywide rent freezes, massive zoning overhauls, and taxpayer-funded expansion schemes, it became obvious why conservative outlets began calling this a communist-style urban plan. These weren't small ideas. These were sweeping, government-dominated restructurings of the entire city. Now, for the moderates, even some Democrats, the alarm bells went off instantly. It wasn't just the plans that were extreme, it was that Mandami had no operational blueprint to execute any of it. It was almost like he was flying by the seat of his pants, just slogans and vibes. But the real damage came from inside City Hall, because when the cameras were off and the microphones were gone, internal staff started whispering the truth. There's no way to fund this. Agencies reportedly rolled their eyes at his budget, and the budget analysts actually privately admitted that the proposals weren't just unrealistic, they were structurally impossible without massive new federal support. Support Trump made very clear would not be coming. And as those whispers grew louder, employees began distancing themselves from Mandami entirely. So basically, they weren't risking their reputations on somebody who didn't even understand city, state, federal coordination, budget cycles, or even basic implementation reality. And this is exactly when Congress stepped in. You see, guys, House Republicans, already fed up with cities experimenting with these far-left economics, introduced something nobody saw coming: the Mandami Act, a bill designed to freeze federal funds to New York City as long as Mandami's policies threaten fiscal stability. Now, conservatives argued that federal taxpayers should not bankroll a socialist wish list that's disguised as urban reform. And the moment that this bill hit Capitol Hill, New York officials went pale, because this wasn't just symbolic. This was targeted, precise, and directly tied to Mandami's sudden rise and sudden collapse. Now, the panic inside New York was immediate. Federal grants keep the city's core systems alive: housing assistance, transit safety upgrades, emergency programs, school support. Budget officers knew instantly if the Mandami Act gained momentum, the financial fallout wouldn't be theoretical. It would be catastrophic. Now, we're talking billions of dollars at risk here. I mean, city departments began scrambling, quietly preparing contingency plans. Some even started freezing projects. I mean, this was huge. Others began whispering that Mandami had put the entire city in jeopardy. That fear right there wasn't exaggerated. Everyone understood the reality, and for the first time, federal support could truly be cut. And this is really, really alarming. And then came the generational shocker. Gen Z flipped. The same voters who love Mandami's energy suddenly pulled back the moment that they saw him freeze under real pressure. Fox News wasn't wrong. I mean, Gen Z loves disruptors, but only the ones who look prepared. So when Mandami started stumbling through explanations while Trump calmly broke down federal constraints, younger voters felt the vibe shift. Their bigger complaint? Well, he makes promises, but he just can't explain the basics. Early polling even showed Gen Z saying Trump sounded more competent. That's when the true panic set in. But nothing revealed Mandami's decline more than what happened on the debate stage. I mean, his rivals didn't attack him. No, they did something far more damaging. They ignored him. So in politics, being attacked means you're still a threat, but being ignored means you're finished. Now, candidates skipped over his talking points completely. Moderates just stopped giving him follow-up questions. His comments floated into the air with zero pushback because nobody cared enough to even respond to him. And so that silence right there hit harder than any criticism. It signaled exactly what insiders already believed. Mandami wasn't a contender anymore. He was a liability. And then the media pivoted, subtly, but unmistakably. See, headlines that once called Mandami a rising progressive force suddenly shifted to phrases like "questions arise" and "plan faces scrutiny." Outlets began comparing him to past New York figures who had passion but no execution. Look at Cynthia Nixon, Bill de Blasio, Jumaine Williams. I mean, these comparisons are political poison because they frame him as just another loud idealist who crumbles when the details matter. So it wasn't an attack, it was a recalibration. And once the media switches angles like that, the public follows every single time. But the real damage wasn't happening in newsrooms. It was happening in boroughs, at town halls across Queens, Brooklyn, Staten Island, even Manhattan. Voters, they started asking brutal, basic questions. Does he even understand how the system works? Like, can he handle real responsibilities? These weren't angry questions. These were doubtful ones. In fact, the doubt spreads faster than the outrage, and moderates don't trust him. Progressives got nervous. Even his own base looked uneasy. So once the seed of the uncertainty starts to take root in New York politics, it snowballs. So for Mandami, that snowball was already rolling downhill at full speed. And then the criticism spread beyond politics. Independent commentators, people who don't side with Trump or Democrats, they started saying the exact same thing. Mandami's ideas outpace his preparation. And that's the critique that no politician can escape because it's not ideological. It is competence-based. Analysts pointed out how often he announces sweeping change with no logistical framework, no coordination plan, no timelines, no budgeting structure. I mean, once independents framed the issue as a readiness problem, the narrative expanded beyond partisan debate. Suddenly, even non-political observers began questioning whether Mandami was even ready for real leadership. But nothing hit harder than Trump's now famous line, "We'll help him out a little bit." And that quiet little phrase detonated online. Gen Z clipped it, memed it, and replayed it in slow motion because it said everything without saying anything. I mean, Trump wasn't mocking Mandami. He wasn't even criticizing him. I mean, he was calmly signaling that Mandami's entire proposal was unserious, unworkable, and fundamentally misunderstood. And that calm tone coming from Trump, of all people, made the entire contrast even sharper. I mean, it told voters one man understands the government and the other one is just pretending. Overnight, the perception gap became undeniable. Now, inside the agencies that actually keep New York running, the fear turned real. I mean, these are departments that depend on stability and strict deadlines, predictable budgeting cycles, and coordination with state and local partners. And they suddenly realized that Mandami didn't operate in this world. No, his improvisational style might actually play pretty well at rallies. We'll give him that. But it terrifies civil service professionals that are overseeing transit systems, housing programs, emergency operations. Staff began routing around him, seeking other points of contact to avoid being pulled into these unsustainable initiatives. To them, Mandami wasn't just inexperienced, he was becoming a risk to operational continuity. And up in Albany, the patience evaporated. In fact, state officials in Albany, already stretched thin by New York's financial constraints, saw Mandami's proposals as unfunded mandates waiting to blow up their own budgets. I mean, quiet conversations already began circulating about slowing down his initiatives and blocking others outright and demanding clearer cost breakdowns before approving anything. Albany knows New York City cannot operate independently. No, it can't. It relies on state authority, state funding, and state coordination every single week. And Mandami's confusion about that structure, it didn't just raise eyebrows, it reignited old concerns and forced leaders to question his entire readiness. Now, inside the Trump administration, Mandami's rise wasn't viewed as a local oddity. It was seen as a test case for the national fight between socialist experimentation and practical governance. I mean, Trump's team began preparing to evaluate every New York City grant with sharper scrutiny, demanding tighter justifications and clearer operational plans. Now, to them, Mandami represented exactly what Trump warned about: leaders who love sweeping visions but ignore systems, budgets, and federal rules. And in this moment, the administration positioned Trump as the adult in the room, someone ensuring America's largest city couldn't be hijacked by ideological fantasy. And behind the scenes, New York's political power brokers made their move. Donors quietly paused their contributions. Endorsements that once seemed guaranteed were suddenly under review. And consultants, they began pulling candidates aside, advising them firmly to avoid aligning with Mandami's brand of politics. The shift wasn't dramatic, it was strategic. It was subtle, it was deadly. Politically connected insiders, they recognized the pattern. Once a candidate looks unprepared on the national stage, they rarely recover from that. And no one wanted to be tied to a sinking ship like Mandami. And the quiet retreat of New York's elite signaled something unmistakable. Mandami's momentum had reversed. Now, Gen Z's final break came when they watched both men side by side, Trump calm, controlled, technical. Mandami, shaky, improvisational. I mean, like almost stunned the conversation had scaled beyond New York City. Now, independent creators on TikTok and YouTube replayed this moment frame by frame, mocking Mandami's confusion and praising Trump's surprising steadiness. I mean, for a generation that's obsessed with authenticity and competency, the contrast was fatal. They weren't choosing ideology, they were choosing stability. And Mandami's inability to answer some basic operational questions, it convinced them that he simply wasn't ready for national level responsibility. Now, Trump unexpectedly became the grown-up in the room. So at this point, even left-leaning analysts had to admit the truth. Without details, timelines, or structured execution, Mandami's sweeping proposals collapsed under their own weight. Conservative commentators called them communist fantasies, but the most damaging critiques actually came from progressives who said that the ideas were emotionally appealing but logistically impossible. Now, without operational grounding, every promise fell apart. Now, what began as a bold vision now looked like performative politics, big speeches, no substance, and once the narrative shifted to he can't execute, it didn't matter how inspiring the rhetoric was. The agenda itself began to crumble. Now, across the city, the question shifted from, do we like Mandami? To something far more dangerous. Can he survive national scrutiny? Now, city officials began doubting whether his proposals could withstand federal review, especially under a Trump administration that demands strict compliance and clear operational plans. Pressure mounted for Mandami to demonstrate recovery, but nothing improved. His messaging got vaguer and vaguer, his answers softer, his confidence started getting thinner, and inside City Hall, leaders concluded that what many people were already whispering. This wasn't a stumble. This was exposure. And the moment happened, the entire race recalibrated around it. So in the end, it wasn't the clash itself that transformed New York's political landscape. It was really more of the gravity that followed it. I mean, Trump's calm dismantling of Mandami didn't just reveal a weakness. It triggered a chain reaction across agencies and donors, voters, media, and lawmakers. Every institution pulled back. Every ally reevaluated. Every critic sharpened. And once that shift began, it never stopped. So this was the moment that the race turned, quietly, unmistakably, permanently. Because in politics, the truth is simple. I mean, you can talk your way into the spotlight, but you can only prove your way out of it. Hey, by the way, guys, if you're one of the real ones who really enjoy what we do here on the channel, you've got to check out the Inner Circle. This is where our true supporters get exclusive access to content that I just can't share here, completely commercial free. It's also the best way to keep this channel going strong. So if you want to be a part of something special, join us over there. Links in the description or in the pinned comment down below.